The office floor was buzzing with the usual noise. Phones ringing, managers barking orders, interns rushing with files they barely understood. But in the middle of that chaos, one quiet young woman stood out. She wore the same simple badge as the rest of the interns, carried the same stack of papers, and kept her head down just like everyone else. To them, she was nobody. Just another nervous college kid hoping for a chance. What they didn't know? She wasn't just anybody. She was the daughter of the very CEO whose name sat on the building outside, the name that paid their salaries, the name they disrespected every single day. She had come here for a reason. Rumors of corruption, discrimination, and managers exploiting staff had reached her father's desk. But instead of calling for an investigation, she had one bold idea: go undercover. See the truth with her own eyes. And today, on this ordinary morning, the truth was about to explode, because in less than an hour, every corrupt manager who thought they were untouchable would find themselves face to face with the intern they mocked, humiliated, and ignored. And when she revealed who she really was, their careers wouldn't just end, they would end on the spot. This is the story of how one black CEO's daughter flipped the script, exposed the rot inside her father's empire, and reminded the world that real power doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it hides behind an intern's badge, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. From the moment she stepped into the glass doors of the towering corporate headquarters, Maya Thompson felt the weight of expectation pressing on her shoulders. At 24, she had the sharp mind of a strategist and the patience of someone who had grown up observing her father navigate the cutthroat world of business. But no classroom or boardroom could have prepared her for what she would witness on the inside. Her disguise was simple: jeans, a plain blouse, a lanyard with a company ID that read Intern. It was almost laughable how easily she blended in. The other interns barely glanced at her, assuming she was just another eager student trying to impress in a world that didn't always reward talent, especially young women of color. And yet, Maya's every step was deliberate. Every nod, every typed report, every small talk with other interns or junior staff was a calculated move to gain information, to map the corridors of influence, and to see which managers truly ran the place with integrity and which ones were rotten at their core. Her first week was a quiet revelation. She watched managers assign tasks that made no sense, often punishing competent employees while rewarding those who flattered them. She noticed the subtle racial bias in promotions, the whispers of favoritism, the unjust deadlines that only seemed to target minority staff. Her notebook grew thick with observations, each note a puzzle piece in a bigger picture of corruption that stretched further than even her father suspected. There was Leonard, the finance manager, who smirked as he delegated impossible workloads to the accounting team, all while pocketing minor expenses for himself. Then came Susan, HR lead, whose cheerful demeanor masked a penchant for taking credit for interns' work while publicly humiliating anyone who challenged her. And everywhere she looked, Maya saw small acts of discrimination that added up: the overlooked black employees, the silent dismissal of complaints, the casual jokes that cut deeper than anyone realized. But it wasn't just the corruption that struck her. It was the complacency of those around it. Employees whispered in the break room about mismanagement, about favoritism, about abuse, but nobody dared confront it. Everyone had learned that speaking out meant risking their career. And that fear, Maya realized, was the real engine powering the corruption. At night, back in her small apartment, Maya would replay conversations in her mind, cross-reference memos, and even memorize manager schedules. Every gesture, every casual remark, every overlooked report was data. She wasn't here for revenge, she was here for justice. And justice, she knew, required precision. Her interactions with other interns became particularly telling. Some, tried to impress her, thinking she was a naive newcomer, while others confided in her, relieved to find someone they thought understood their struggles. Maya listened, recorded, and analyzed, each story a thread in the larger tapestry of misconduct she was unraveling. By the end of the second week, she had identified patterns of nepotism, fraud, and subtle systemic discrimination that had gone unchecked for years. Even as she navigated this world of whispered secrets and hidden agendas, Maya had to maintain the facade perfectly. One wrong move, one slip of recognition, and her cover could be blown. She had learned to laugh at inappropriate jokes, to appear flustered when given impossible tasks, to blend into the background while she was quietly absorbing every detail. Her father's empire, polished and gleaming from the outside, was riddled with fissures and cracks, and she was here to expose them. The moment of reckoning was approaching, though she couldn't see it yet. She knew it would require courage, timing, and an unwavering commitment to truth. But Maya Thompson had been raised with the knowledge that privilege carried responsibility. And in her hands, that responsibility was about to become a force that no corrupt manager could ignore. Maya's third week as an intern marked the beginning of a shift. The office, which had seemed merely inefficient and unfair, now revealed itself as a machine lubricated with greed, manipulation, and subtle intimidation. She saw managers quietly, rewriting reports to make themselves look competent while making others appear incompetent. She heard whispered promises of promotions in exchange for loyalty, and she witnessed petty harassment disguised as team-building exercises. It began with Leonard in finance. One morning, she noticed discrepancies in expense reports, small amounts siphoned off here and there, almost invisible unless you were paying close attention. She stayed late, cross-checking records, silently logging every instance. That afternoon, she overheard him boasting to a junior employee, "Nobody checks this stuff. It's ours for the taking." Maya's heart raced. This was bigger than rumors. This was a tangible act of corruption that could ruin innocent employees if left unchecked. Meanwhile, Susan in HR had escalated her psychological games. Maya saw interns trembling under her gaze, employees being subtly threatened with performance reviews for minor infractions, and complaints buried in confidential folders. Maya started discreetly documenting everything, photographing memos, saving chat logs, and taking meticulous notes in a way that nobody could trace. Every small injustice was a breadcrumb toward the bigger picture, a map of the rot inside her father's empire. One particular afternoon, Maya witnessed a shocking encounter. A talented black junior analyst, Jordan, had been working on a project for weeks. Susan swooped in during a presentation, took the credit, and dismissed Jordan in front of everyone. The humiliation was deliberate, calculated, and painful. Jordan walked away, head down, and Maya felt a surge of anger. But she remained composed, understanding that outward confrontation now could blow her cover. Instead, she comforted Jordan quietly, promising, "I see what's happening. You're not alone." By the fourth week, Maya had built a mental dossier of all the manager's weaknesses, misdeeds, and hidden agendas. She discovered favoritism in promotions, unexplained budget allocations, and countless instances of subtle discrimination. More than that, she observed the culture of fear that had allowed corruption to flourish. Employees were silent not because they didn't know, but because they feared retaliation. And that fear, Maya realized, was the key to dismantling the corrupt system. One Friday, a major incident accelerated her plan. Leonard had tried to manipulate a financial report to cover up embezzlement, instructing an intern to falsify numbers. Maya calmly asked for clarification, pretending to misunderstand, then quietly recorded the conversation. Later that evening, she cross-checked every entry, ensuring she had irrefutable proof. She felt a thrill. This was the moment she had. been preparing for. The corruption was no longer abstract. It had a face, and she had evidence. As she moved through the office, Maya began subtly testing the managers. She would make minor mistakes on purpose, see who exploited them and who helped without ulterior motive. She noted who dismissed concerns, who subtly punished interns for speaking up, and who quietly mentored employees despite the culture of fear. By now, she had become invisible in plain sight. Everyone underestimated her because they saw a young intern, not the CEO's daughter, silently gathering the ammunition she needed. The tension escalated when Susan tried to undermine Maya directly. "You're not cut out for this," she said one morning, a smirk playing on her lips. "Maybe internships aren't your thing." Maya smiled politely, noting the exact words. She knew that Susan's overconfidence and arrogance were her greatest weaknesses. Employees had begun noticing Maya's calm persistence, but they couldn't place her influence. She had become a quiet observer of both human behavior and corporate misdeeds. Over the next few days, Maya witnessed an egregious case of nepotism. A new project was assigned to someone completely unqualified, simply because they were friends with a senior manager. The deserving employees were sidelined, overlooked, and demoralized. Maya recorded every conversation, every email, every subtle violation. She realized that while financial misconduct was critical, cultural corruption, the manipulation, favoritism, and psychological abuse was just as dangerous. This was a system-wide failure, and she had to expose it all. By the 5th week, she began planting small interventions to test reactions. She subtly suggested improvements, saw them ignored, and noted who resisted transparency. She whispered encouragement to targeted employees, offering moral support while continuing to document misconduct. Each action was built toward a single purpose: the moment when the world would finally see the truth she had been living through. Then came the moment Maya had been anticipating, the quarterly review meeting. Every manager was present, confident in their authority, unaware that the intern they had ignored was quietly observing every word. She noticed discrepancies in reports, managers trying to manipulate numbers, and the subtle intimidation of junior staff. It was all there, captured in her mental and digital notes. And in that moment, she realized the climax was approaching. The exposure of the corruption wasn't a possibility anymore. It was inevitable. Maya felt a mix of adrenaline and calm determination. Every detail she had collected, every injustice she had witnessed, every act of subtle discrimination, it was all leading to this moment. And when it came, it would be swift, decisive, and undeniable. The very people who thought themselves untouchable would soon learn that appearances could be deceiving. The day had arrived. The office hummed with its usual Monday morning energy, oblivious to the storm about to hit. Maya walked in, badge on her chest, papers in hand, eyes scanning the room with quiet precision. Managers greeted her with casual nods, some smirking at the intern who had dared to question minor decisions over the past weeks. They had no idea the reckoning was imminent. The first meeting of the day was scheduled in the main conference room. Leonard, Susan, and several other senior managers were present, confident and arrogant. They were discussing budgets, project, timelines, and performance metrics, all manipulated to hide their misdeeds. Maya took a seat at the far end of the table, notebook open, pretending to take notes on mundane details. Every laugh, every smug comment, every subtle intimidation tactic was recorded mentally and digitally. Then, with the room's attention divided, Maya stood. She cleared her throat, and for the first time, all eyes turned toward the intern they had dismissed, mocked, and underestimated. "Excuse me," she said, voice calm but commanding. "I believe you all need to see something." With a few swift movements, she connected her laptop to the conference room projector. Charts, spreadsheets, and email threads illuminated the screen. clear evidence of financial misconduct, favoritism, and systemic abuse. Leonard's embezzlement, Susan's exploitation of interns, mismanagement of projects, and hidden bonuses, everything was laid bare. The room went silent. Every conversation you've had, every expense you've manipulated, every employee you've demoralized, it's all documented, Maya continued. She clicked through the slides, showing patterns of behavior, timelines, and proofs that left no room for excuses. Faces paled. Some managers stammered, trying to deflect blame. Others froze, realizing the severity of exposure. And then, the moment of revelation. Maya unzipped her jacket to reveal a corporate ID that wasn't just any ID. It carried the Thompson family crest. The room gasped. Whispers turned into shocked murmurs. "I am Maya Thompson," she declared, voice steady, eyes locked on. The guilty. "I am not just an intern. I am the daughter of the CEO." The weight of her words hit the managers like a physical blow. Leonard's smug confidence crumbled. Susan's forced smile vanished. For years, they had believed themselves untouchable, invisible to oversight. And now, the very person they had dismissed, belittled, and exploited held the ultimate authority over them. Maya didn't pause. "Because of your actions, you have jeopardized the integrity of this company and harmed the people who trusted you. Effective immediately, you are all terminated." Shock froze the room for a moment, then chaos erupted. Leonard lunged, trying to protest, but Maya calmly raised her hand. Security, already on standby at her discreet signal, stepped in. Employees in the room whispered, some cheering quietly, others staring in disbelief. The corrupt managers were escorted out, their arrogance replaced by humiliation and disbelief. As the room settled, Maya addressed the remaining staff, who were still in awe. "This company stands for integrity, for fairness, and for respect. No one is above accountability. You all deserve to work in a space where your efforts are recognized, your voices heard, and your dignity protected. Together, we will rebuild that culture." Maya's words struck a chord. Employees who had felt silenced or marginalized over the years now saw a vision of hope and justice. Her courage, her preparation, and her meticulous attention to detail had transformed fear into empowerment. In the following hours, news of the dramatic firings spread through the corporate offices like wildfire. Emails, messages, and phone calls confirmed what had happened. The company's reputation, once overshadowed by corruption rumors, now shone with the promise of reform. Maya's undercover work had not only exposed wrongdoing but also set a precedent. Accountability was non-negotiable, and no one, no matter how powerful, could hide behind position or privilege. By the end of the day, employees returned to their desks with renewed purpose. The toxic culture that had poisoned the workplace for years began to dissipate, replaced by transparency, collaboration, and respect. And at the heart of it all was Maya Thompson, the intern who had quietly, decisively, and flawlessly dismantled corruption from within. The day after the dramatic firings, the atmosphere in the headquarters was almost surreal. The gossip of the previous day had already traveled through the building like wildfire. Employees who had once walked with their heads down now exchanged relieved smiles and whispered words of encouragement. Maya Thompson had not only removed the corrupt managers but had also restored a sense of justice that had been missing for years. Her father, the CEO, called a company-wide meeting to address the events. He praised Maya's courage and foresight, acknowledging the deep-seated issues that had plagued the organization. "Integrity and accountability are the pillars of this company," he told everyone, his voice firm and resolute. "And thanks to Maya, we are rebuilding those pillars stronger than ever." Employees began to step forward with stories of the injustices they had endured silently for years. Their voices, once stifled by fear, were now heard and valued. The HR department, reorganized under new leadership, implemented transparent policies to ensure fair treatment for all staff. Financial audits were conducted across every department, and a strict system of checks and balances was introduced to prevent embezzlement and mismanagement. But the impact went beyond just policies and procedures. Maya's actions inspired her colleagues, showing them that courage and preparation could challenge systemic wrongdoing. Junior employees who had felt powerless now saw that one determined individual could make a monumental difference. The toxic culture of favoritism, harassment, and subtle discrimination began to unravel, replaced by mentorship programs, employee recognition initiatives, and open-door communication policies. Externally, the company's reputation soared. Clients and partners, initially concerned about the internal turmoil, were reassured by the swift action and transparency. The story of Maya's undercover work spread through business media, serving as a powerful example of how accountability could be enforced from within. Investors expressed renewed confidence, and employee morale reached levels unseen in years. Maya, however, remained grounded. She didn't seek personal recognition. Her motivation had always been justice, not fame. Yet the transformation she had initiated was undeniable. Where corruption had once thrived in silence, transparency and accountability now reigned. Employees no longer feared retaliation for speaking up, and managers understood that their actions would always be scrutinized. Over the following weeks, Maya continued to work behind the scenes, mentoring staff, monitoring processes, and ensuring that the lessons of the past would not be forgotten. Her undercover experience had given her a deep understanding of human behavior, organizational flaws, and the courage it takes to confront wrongdoing. By facing corruption head-on, she had created a blueprint for ethical leadership and empowered a generation of employees to demand integrity in the workplace. In the end, the company that had once been defined by secrecy and fear emerged stronger, fairer, and more united. Maya Thompson's daring undercover mission didn't just fire corrupt managers, it reshaped an entire corporate culture, proving that true leadership sometimes requires stepping into the shadows to shine a light on injustice. Maya Thompson's story is more than just an incredible tale of undercover bravery. It's a lesson in courage, accountability, and the power of one determined individual. She showed that no matter how entrenched corruption or injustice may seem, it can be confronted and dismantled with preparation, patience, and moral conviction. True leadership isn't just about authority or titles. It's about using your position to create fairness, empower others, and hold those who misuse power accountable. Her actions remind us that silence in the face of wrongdoing only allows it to grow. Maya didn't wait for someone else to fix the system. She took responsibility herself, proving that justice is often forged by those brave enough to act. And while her story takes place inside a corporate empire, the lesson resonates everywhere. Workplaces, communities, and society as a whole thrive when integrity guides our actions and fear is replaced by accountability. So, we want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed corruption or injustice at work or in your community? How did you respond? Comment below with your experiences, your thoughts, and your solutions. Because change starts with awareness, and every voice matters. Share this story to inspire others to stand up, speak out, and take action.